In this lesson, we'll use only our hands to form a single piece of clay into a vessel. Start with a piece of clay about 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. Try to quickly get it into as round a ball as possible. Don't take too much time, because the longer you work with clay, the drier the surface becomes, and then when you start to pinch it, it will crack. So just turn it around and look at the outline. Where it doesn't look like a circle, push it in. Try to get as close to a circle as possible. Making a pinch pot is a lot like throwing on the wheel, with your hands becoming the wheel. Start by placing your 2 middle fingers on one side of the ball and your thumb directly opposite on the other side of the sphere. Pinch in with your thumb, just a little, making a small dent in the clay. Let off. Rotate the ball a little bit. Place your thumb back in the indent and pinch a little more, creating a slightly deeper hole. Let off the pressure, rotate, pinch. Let off, turn, pinch. As I do this, I'm drilling a hole right down in the middle. If I pinch straight down, like this, the hole will get deep and narrow. If I pinch down with my thumb more flat, the form will end up wide and flat. This time, I'm going to do it kind of medium, continuing to pinch down, letting off, turning the ball a little, pinching down, letting off, turn, until I start to feel my thumb and fingers about 1/4 inch apart. Look at the spacing between my thumb and fingers, and put yours the same distance apart. Close your eyes and try to remember that distance, so you'll know when to stop pinching. Looking at the bottom, you can see where my middle fingers were. From there, I'll move them out from the center about 1/2 inch. Pinch like before to a 1/4 inch thickness. Then let off, rotate the pot a little ways, and pinch again to that 1/4 inch thickness, 1/2 inch up from the center bottom. Continue to pinch, let off, turn, until you go all the way around the bottom. Notice that I also rotate the pot as I move my fingers up the sides of the sphere. The more I turn it, the more I pinch on the side. Thus, the taller and thinner the final form will be. I can keep it low and flat by pinching only on the bottom. Here it is rotated a little. Pinch, let off, turn, pinch, let off, turn, all the way around at each level. You can see the concentric circle pinches I have left as I've moved up the sides. Continue to do this until you get close to the top. You can see that I try not to pinch the rim of the pot, but leave it a little thicker. I do this because if I were to pinch the rim, it would make it too thin and weak. So I stay right below the rim as I pinch. I can even turn my thumb sideways to pinch the pot thin, just under the rim. Once I finish pinching, I can go back with my thumb and whole fingers as a mold to smooth out the pinch marks and redefine the form. Lastly, I form the rim with light pinching and smoothing. As I stated earlier, had I pinched with my thumb and fingers flat and outward, the form would have looked that way, as opposed to rotating the pot and pinching upwards, giving me the tall, thin pot. Let's see how that looks. Start with a ball of clay again, pinching the initial center hole in the same manner. Once the hole is equal from all sides and to 1/4 of an inch from the bottom, I'm not going to turn the pot as I come up, but I keep it in the same orientation, moving my thumb and fingers out from the bottom center, pinching between the whole thumb and middle fingers. Pinching in this manner, letting off and turning as I rotate the clay ball. As before, move out from the center a small ways after each rotation is completed. Remember to stay under the rim, leaving it thicker. Now you can see that this one is flatter and much bigger around than the first one I made. The other extreme of a tall, thin pot starts in the same manner, with the centering hole drilled to within 1/4 inch of the bottom, but instead of keeping my thumb and the pot flat or rounding, I'm going to move my fingers out to the side the 1/2 inch, but instead of pinching down like before between the pads of my fingertips and thumb, I'm going to pinch with the tips of my fingers towards the thumb, pulling up slightly towards the top of the pot as I push in. Pinching, letting off, and then turn as always. As I complete this rotation, you can see that the side of the pot is very thin and starting to go upward dramatically. Again, I move my fingers up the side and start the pinching, letting off, and turning process over again. Don't try to pinch too much thickness or rotate too far between pinches. Go in small increments and go around 2 or 3 times to reach the 1/4 inch goal. At some point, you can rotate the pot 90 degrees to the bottom and start to pinch inward with the fingers and thumb pads again. I sometimes pull the clay inward towards my thumb a little bit, and then pinch to the desired thickness to keep the thin, tall form. Also, I slide my fingers upward towards the rim as I pinch to move the excess clay up out of the way. You can see that it is getting taller than the other ones and smaller around. Still, I have left a lot of clay thickness in the walls, so I'm going to go back and repinch from the bottom, repeating the pulling in and pinching dragging up method. At this point, I also like to define the base of the form before it gets too deep to reach. Continuing up, I make sure I stay under the rim. Leaving it thick and refining the form I want. At this point, I want to look at the form compared to the first one. As you can see, it is taller and narrower. But I want to continue on with the one I just made and do something more, which is easier to do with a beginning shape like this, but it can be done with any shape. What I want to do is color this pot in as I go up further, making it go into a necked bottle shape. Let's zoom in on the top of the pot. Start by encircling just the rim of the pot with your thumb and second finger of one hand. In between your finger and thumb, place your 2 middle fingers of the other hand on the outside of the pot just below the rim, and the thumb on the inside across from them. Lightly hold the pot with these and pull in towards the center, pinching a little at the same time. Let go with the encircling hand and rotate the pot slightly. Grasp the pot again with the thumb and second finger and move the other fingers and thumb to the high corner of the pot. Pull in a little as you pinch to a 1/4 inch thickness and squeeze with the encircling hand. Continue to let off, turn, squeezing with the thumb and fingers on one hand while pulling in towards the center and pinching with the other hand. You can see the opening, it's getting smaller. Continue going around, squeezing, pulling, pinching, then turning and going to the next high point until you achieve the desired opening size. As I've been doing this coloring, I've created a shoulder that is somewhat misshapen and a little too thick. So I'm going to use my index finger as a shaping mold. Sticking it into the opening of the pot, curving it around the shoulder, I can pinch around the pot with my thumb, redefining the shape and thinning the walls. Then I can go back out and continue up the neck, squeezing, pulling, and pinching. At some point, the opening is going to become too narrow to put my thumb into, so I can leave it that shape, cutting the rim off even, or I can take something small in diameter, like a pencil or paintbrush, and stick it into the opening. I can then place my two thumbs and index fingers at equal fourths around the neck and gently push in a little bit. Letting off, I turn it a bit, then press in again. Working my way around the pot and up the neck, making it even narrower and taller. Be careful when it becomes time to remove the pencil or paintbrush. If you just pull it out, you will probably rip off the neck. Gently secure the rim of the pot and then remove the stick. Before you remove it though, it is a good idea to redefine the shape and smooth the surface some. Just as in rounding the ball at the beginning, I can now look at the profile, and as I turn the pot around, I want to try to recreate that same contour all the way around. At some point, the rim has to be dealt with. You could cut it off even, or this one looks like it could be shaped into a spout, with a handle added on the other side. But I want to trim it with a knife. Using the edge of the blade, I can rotate the pot under the knife, making an even mark all the way around. Then I can cut along the mark. The rim can then be finished. The last thing to be considered is what type of foot or standing mechanism you want to use. You can use just a coil or little balls, feet or claws, or anything that will keep it up straight. I'm just going to push up a dent in the middle of the bottom, making a small rim for the pot to sit on. Pinch pots can be used to make small parts of large sculptures, or moquettes for larger pieces, or small sculptures in and of themselves. They don't have to remain just pots, but anything